doesn't matter what happened in the past. And I think a lot of people focus too much on what's behind you. You need to focus on what's ahead of you. That's just the reality of it. Like, you can't control what happened in the past, but you can control what happens in the future, you know? So, with you doing the right thing and just like kind of, you know, manifesting your reality, I think that's the biggest thing, is that you are your own reality, right? Like, you are what you make of your life. If you're some person that's like has nothing but bad things to say and just draws in negativity, like, negativity is going to find you day after day after day.
So welcome to my podcast, and here I have with me David Maldonado. Is that how you pronounce it?
That is correct.
Awesome, great. And so he is located in Colorado as well as I. He's in Fort Collins, and I'm in Denver. And so, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good, good, thank you. How's your week going? Weekend or?
It's been long. This weekend has been, I guess it's been long, but it's felt very short. And I'm not ready for the work week, but it just is what it is, you know. I made through this last week. It was a good week overall. Just very long but short. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it's always strange when it comes to the timing. It's like we have our own timing and our own world, and then it's like different when it comes to stepping out of our own zone. It's like so. Anyways, so thank you again for meeting with me this evening, and just really excited to get to know more about your story and your path and what got you here into your your passion in life. I know you are into roofing right now, and you're doing also cybersecurity. Is that right? Courses?
Yeah, so I mean, I got into roofing, you know, a couple years ago. Just by like friend of mine, he just he started doing it and kind of got me into the industry, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it, and I kind of just like learned more about it, and I was able to like actually start helping people, like, you know, take care of their houses, and just meeting like all walks of life, you know, meeting a lot of people that I would have never met. So that was pretty cool, and it grew my interest. But obviously I've just been, you know, cybersecurity. I'm like taking classes right now. It's just a field where it's roofing also, like, roofing's very secure. You know, everyone needs a roof on their house. You know, so it's like one of those avenues. But I've always loved just like computers, and I know cybersecurity is like always going to be an issue. You know, there's more and more identity theft and hacking and all that sorts of stuff. So I just kind of was like, well, let me just toy with this other avenue right now. So um, I do those too, and then you know, that's takes the gist of my time right now for the most part. You know, so it's a lot. It's a lot on my hands, but I'm happy with it. You know, it's fun. I like doing what I do.
So how long have you been doing roofing? You said.
So about 2 years now. About 2 years. Um, before well, so I it's funny. So I guess more like five, but really the type of roofing I'm doing now is about 2 years. But about 5 years total, like all in all. So a little bit different. More of the like sales and production part as opposed to just before. I co-owned a company with a friend that just kind of did some contracting work out. And I really kind of like blindly got into the business without really knowing what I was doing. Um, and that was kind of an experience in itself. And then um, I just saw the potential in it and then kind of wanted to dive a little bit deeper. So, you know, I'm fresh off of just leaving a company and moving to a new company. Um, which has been quite the transition. It's been a little bit difficult, but in the end, I know it's going to be very rewarding. Um, so I'm excited. It's been good already. So like I just can't wait to see what happens in like the coming months or years. Hopefully, So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I got nothing but good things to say though that I think are going to happen and will happen. So.
And with cybersecurity, because you had mentioned that you have always been into computers. What's your inspiration that like got you into that? And like I know the backbone of it is to protect those who have high information when it comes to the data, and for it to leak, it's really with sensitive information. It can really impact a person's life. And so, what inspired you into going in that direction? Is it like,
What kind of inspired me is I got a large amount of money stolen about 3 years ago. Um, it was kind of life changing, and so I was like, I don't ever want someone to be like kind of in that position that I went through, and it happens. People get hacked and scammed for billions of trillion, like probably trillions of dollars, like the global loss of scamming and hacking is like in the trillions of dollars per year. And so I just after that had happened, I was just like, hey, like I would like to know like more about this, and like if I can like help people out in the future, like have to never go through what I went through. um that would be kind of ideal. That would just be I just, I guess, I like helping people essentially, and that's just a big thing. Like protecting people is is just huge, and that's the threat is growing more and more real every year. Like there's more hacks, there's more scams, there's you know more phishing that's going on like more and more consecutively, like year after year, and it's only going to get worse with artificial intelligence. So I don't know. Have two potential routes to go, and there'll always be security in both fields. So that's just the way I was looking at things.
and when it comes to going back to your roofing, you had mentioned about a couple of individuals that will be helping you on the project. How's that? How did you run into them, and what
Uh,
inspired you to?
so I guess like one of my friends like had left a multi-million dollar company, like one of the biggest companies in probably the United States, doing residential roofing. And he'd been working there for 7 8 years, just kind of slaving away, making good money, but not really good money in terms of like the industry standards. I guess making more money for the company, and just, the owners were not really treating him well, and especially the people at the bottom. Um, Roofing is a really hard job for both for pretty much everybody that's in the industry except for the owners. The owners just fat in their pockets. And um, my friend, he was a doctor. He actually has a doctorate degree. It's in chiropractic, but he went to medical school for 8 years after college to get his degree, and then he was involved in a really bad car accident, and um, he had to find a um, different job because he wasn't able to do the chiropractic stuff after, like, his shoulders pretty much got shattered in the accident. So he got into roofing and was making really good money, but like I said, when you're making a company millions and millions of dollars a month, and you're just not getting treated very well, kind of makes you want to go off and do your own thing. So that's what he did, and it's obviously nothing's easy to begin with, and even maybe a few years from now, it still might not be easy, but that's just the route he wanted to take. And he's more of a risk taker. And um, so like I said, I ended up leaving my last company to come just take a chance and work for him, so it's always a risk, working for a startup company in any field. Um, anything, tech startups are especially, like, really volatile. I'm not saying this is a tech startup, but I'm just putting that out for instance. Construction is a little bit easier as long as the work's there. Colorado, we get some of the nastiest hailstorms in the nation, and so that's why there's a lot of roofers in Colorado. I think on paper, there's about 40,000 roofing companies in Colorado, which is, like, absolutely insane. But it just shows that, like, they're there for a reason. It's because we get a lot of hailstorms and people get their house damages. Like, people don't realize, like, if you ask an insurance company what the most damaging kind of storm is, most people would think of, like, a hurricane or a tornado. Well, I guess, like, hurricane, if you're the eye of a hurricane, like, that's, like, really, really bad. Like, your house is probably going to get destroyed, totaled. But in terms of, like, damage losses for insurance companies, hailstorms are probably, like, one of the worst. Insurance companies lose billions and billions of dollars, like, every year off of hailstorms. Like this year in Colorado, there's a hailstorm that hit. There are multiple hailstorms. There's a couple big ones that hit up in, like, Greeley, Colorado, Johnstown, and then there was a really big one that hit Denver, not southern Denver, but, like, northern Denver, like Thornton, all the way to, like, Aurora, out to the airport, and then kind of, like, into central Denver. That storm is Those storms combined have probably insurance companies are losing tens of billions of dollars, like, easily. And it really impacts, your house, your roof. When it hails and the hail's, like, big enough, it completely shreds up the shingles, and it makes it to where water can start seeping through, and then you get your damage. So essentially, that's, how we stay employed, is just because the weather is so bad here. But it is a very, very it's very competitive. It's a very competitive industry. It's not for the lighthearted. And I found that out, definitely coming into this job. And I'm I would say I'm pretty competitive, like, playing sports growing up, and I play poker with my friends, and I'm, like, just, like, I'm pretty competitive just naturally. So I think that's kind of the reason why I like it. And then, like I said, it goes along the lines of, like, me being able to help people that are in kind of need, of, getting their house back into shape, and, me being able to meet people that I would have never met before. So it's fun. It's fun working with people, you know. So that's the one thing that's, you know, about cybersecurity. It's like, yeah, you get to help meet people, or like you get to help people, but like you don't get to meet them really, right? So we'll see. We'll see how the scales tip and which avenue I'll lean towards more. You know, I can't say that right now, but for right now, I'm gonna stick with roofing and then just kind of like continue like my education in cybersecurity, and we'll see where it leads me in a few years.
Sweet. So I was thinking with your friend, we had mentioned that it was really eye-opening when it comes to the your inner world awakening. Can you share more about that?
Um, so my friend that we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we discussed, you know, a few years ago during COVID, um, I was going through some hardships. I'd gotten into a relationship that wasn't the greatest. It was pretty toxic, if anything. You know, it was good the first few months, as most any relationship is. Otherwise, you know, you want to be together naturally. But the person that I had met in the beginning wasn't really the person that was there towards the end. She had completely changed about 180 degrees from when I had met her, you know, and that was like personality, behavior, attitude, everything. And I couldn't really pinpoint it. And I have a really good friend that is very successful in life. You know, he was a self-made millionaire, you know, in his early 30s. And he flew in from Texas, where he'd been working with a large cryptocurrency mining company, making, you know, $500,000 a year, not to mention like all the added bonuses and whatnot that they're giving him. And he was like super unhappy with his life. And so he flew in to see me, and no, I could already tell that, you know, something was like wrong with him. Whenever he was like getting super stressed out, he'd start drinking. And whenever he'd start drinking, he'd start doing drugs. And um, mm, I thought like maybe I could get him out from the city, you know, where we were both raised, and he knew a lot of people. So I'm like, all right, you know, he's able to pretty much get wherever he wants, you know, in the city. So I took him away from it, and my girlfriend like came at the time. My girlfriend came to meet up with us, and essentially, um, I didn't even know it then, but apparently she'd been using too, and that's part of the reason why her attitude and her demeanor and everything had kind of changed. And she had got my friends some drugs, and they were cut with a drug called fentanyl, which I'm sure most people have heard of. Um, and my friend had took the drugs, and not even knowing that that was in there, and he pretty much died. He flatlined 2 times. Well, I was able to find him, you know, before anything like severely bad happened, like him actually dying. But I called 911. I got the police out there as quick as possible. They were there within about a minute, and they're able to administer Narcan. Um, he was he was um, just clinging on to life barely. He was rushed into an ambulance. He was rushed down to Lakewood Medical Center. It's just like a level 1 trauma center. He passed away basically 2 times, like in the ambulance. He flatlined. They brought him back to life. By the time I got down to the hospital, he was in intensive care for a couple days, and um, you know, I kind of just, as soon as he kind of came out of it, I kind of talked to him like, "Hey, this isn't really working. Whatever you're doing, you know." And he had been to rehab multiple times, and he had gone to some of the nicest rehab facilities in the nation, the best that money could buy. His his bosses were billionaires, so they would send him to rehab facilities that cost $40,000-$50,000 a month with nothing really to show for it. He would be good when he came out of there, but it was only a matter of time until he would work himself like so hard that he would stress himself so bad that he would resort to drinking, and the drinking would resort to doing drugs. So like one thing led to another, and it was just combination of just past traumas, um and he had PTSD from things that happened in the past as well, so that led to probably the drinking and the other stuff as well. And I had just talked to him after pretty much he got discharged from the hospital. I'm like, hey, like none of this stuff is gonna like hold up, like if you keep doing what you're doing, like you're probably gonna pass away. And so I I had been, I don't know why, like I don't know how or why, but like I had been, I guess, researching like some psychedelic therapies that weren't technically legal in the United States at the time. They're now legal in Colorado. They just passed a law in January legalizing these psychedelic medications. But we had to go outside of the United States and meet the shaman, a medicine practitioner, and he charges is a decent amount. This was a $10,000 per person type thing. Like this program was a 2 week long program. There's some programs that are like a month, but a lot of it is just detoxing your body of a lot of things that aren't really good for you: caffeine, nicotine, um, even like a lot of like salt, and just eating very, very like clean foods. Like I'm talking super clean. We don't have a lot of that in the United States. A lot of food we eat is not very good here. A lot of it's like processed and a lot of sugar and everything. But there's something to do with taking the medications or the medicines as well, that you have to have a very like clean system. They detox you for a reason. And he really didn't know kind of what he was getting into when he'd done this. And I mean, I kind of had a small idea of getting in what I was getting into. And we went down there and did a couple things. The first thing was called Cambo. It's a medicine that's been around for thousands of years. It is non-psychedelic. It's a medicine that it was originally, it's called Cambo because apparently the shaman that found it in the Amazon forest, his name was Cambo. His people were sick and dying from something, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. And he had taken a hallucinogen called ayahuasca, which is like indigenous to the Amazonian rainforest. He had taken that and kind of gone on a hallucination, but like a spiritual journey. And he was told to go out into the rainforest and find a frog that would help save his people. And so he like went out into the rainforest and he found this frog that's it's almost like a poisonous dart frog. And he found this frog and he would collect the poison on a stick. He would just like pick the frog and rub a stick and gather like all the poison that's basically on it. And what they do is they basically just give you like a light burn on your arm, and they administer the Cambo. And you're supposed to drink a bunch of water before this, so you don't have anything to eat. And they give you a couple. They'll give you enough until you start feeling kind of nauseous, and then you start throwing up for about 15 minutes. But then after that 15 minutes, you feel like pretty bad. You're not feeling good. But after that, things start to get a lot better. You're starting to feel better. Like endorphins are starting to kick in. Um, it's supposed to have quite a few different healing properties, but it's hard to say because this isn't Western medicine. This isn't something that's been like super researched. Only like some of these like psychedelic medications have been getting researched now in the last like 10 years. I'm not saying that one is not, it's non-psychedelic, but so we did that first. That was more of just a cleansing thing to kind of get your body like, hey, like get rid of the toxins essentially. And then we did a medicine called 5-MeO DMT, which is that one comes from a frog as well, and that one is psychoactive. This hasn't been around for a very long time. This was possibly discovered within the last 50 years. These toads are from the Sonoran Desert, which is in Arizona, all the way down to like the Baja Peninsula in California. And these frogs come out for, uh, you know, 3 months out of the year to mate and eat, and then during the wet season, and then they go back underground for 9 months. And someone stumbled across this toad that produces this. It's like I can't even describe the substance, and I don't even understand how this guy figured out how to collect this substance from a toad, and it's smoked almost. That's what they do with it, is they smoke the venom almost of the toad, and it produces a hallucinogenic like um, state of mind. But what's crazy about this is the dimethyltryptamine is a natural substance that is in every person's body. This is not a foreign substance that is harmful. Your body naturally produces dimethyltryptamine. You get it pretty much 3 times in your life. You get it when you're born. You get a full like a pretty heavy flood of it. You get it when you dream. When you have like those like crazy like lucid dreams and whatnot. That's your brain releasing dimethyltryptamine. And um, the last the last time you get it is when you die. When you die, your pineal gland in your head releases a full flood of dimethyltryptamine, and that's when you hear a lot of people that say like, hey, like someone got shot and they're like, I saw God, or I saw something that just wasn't there. And it's usually because they're hallucinating. Their body's um, reacting to shutting down and kind of giving it its goodbye. But so this is I don't know who found this out, but someone found out basically a way to stimulate something that's like already there essentially. And this is like the first medication that we'd taken. The second one was called Ibogaine. Ibogaine is found in South Africa, central South Africa, or central western South Africa, like around like the Congo, Ghana region. It is a root that um, these tribes have been eating for thousands of years as well. They brew the root into a liquid drink, and they drink it, and then they have these spiritual ritual ceremonies, and they've been doing it for a very, very long time. And in the last, probably since the 90s, some scientists were out there kind of studying what these people were doing, and they found that there's some like crazy, things that happen when you ingest this substance, and it gives you a very, very um, very, very psychedelic experience. It's not very pleasant. It's not for most people. I don't recommend most people do it. The type of people that need to do it are not saying a need to, but like, could look into doing it would be people that have traumas, PTSD, addiction, just mental illnesses, like, um, there was, there was people that were taking this substance that were addicted to heroin for 20 years, and they would wake up the next day after taking it and they didn't want to do um, heroin ever again. Like, kind of it's that powerful, essentially. Like, it's what they call like a reset, like that really resets your brain back to its like natural state. But like I said, this wasn't fun, like that was like, very, very, it's almost like, 5 years of therapy in 24 hours. It's a very long time, and it's very rough on you. Not very pleasant. Anyway, we did that. And then afterwards, we did the last medicine, which is called ayahuasca. And I kind of talked about that earlier, about that shaman doing ayahuasca and going out into the jungle and finding the frog. Ayahuasca has been around for thousands of years, and they really don't know, like, who found it or what. But it's kind of crazy because it's not just like one plant, it's a couple plants. It's a leaf and a vine that are found in the Amazonian rainforest. And when you brew them together, this is also dimethyltryptamine, but it's different than the 5-MeO DMT, which is, I mean, they're both dimethyltryptamine, but 5-MeO is a little bit more powerful, but they're one and the same, but they're a little bit different. And ayahuasca it's something that, I think pretty much anyone could probably try it. Um, and I think that it helps with a lot of people, especially people that are dying of terminal cancer, and people that are very anxious and just like stressed out, which I feel like is a lot of society today. Um, there's a reason why Colorado legalized these psychedelic medications, is because the pharmaceutical industry is just like not really doing their job. They're there to make money. They're not there to cure people, and that's just as simple as it is. You know, so these medicines are just something that, hey, like, you might only have to take it one time in your life, or hey, it might be like kind of like scheduled routinely, but it's not something that you pop a pill like every day and it's supposed to just like solve your issues. Like, really, it's all about the person, right? And they got to like work on their issues. Like my friend that we're talking about that, came with me to do all this stuff, like, he had bad addiction issues. He had really bad PTSD. He had a lot of trauma that was like built up, and just, he was very stressed out all the time and very anxious. And he went from being essentially bipolar and, like I said, having PTSD, to like not taking anything. Like, he was off um all bipolar medication, like all the medications they were giving him for PTSD. He used to have like night terrors. He could wake up every night like just sweating and just almost like, kind of screaming. Um, After like he had done all this stuff, like, he was a normal person, which is like insane to say. And sure, he's had like a couple like small slip ups, like, like nothing's like ever easy, but like it kind of shows you that, hey, you need to work on yourself and you need to take care of yourself, right? So, that's the lessons that I got from like the whole thing. And like, obviously, like, I had kind of some of my own trauma that I was dealing with from my ex-girlfriend at the time. Like, hey, she almost killed my best friend. Um, she stole a bunch of money from me. She, just, it wasn't really good, So I was dealing with my own trauma then at the time that I just wasn't even really ready to face. But it was very, very helpful. And I kind of feel like these medicines like they kind of like, kind of seek you out. Like, it's like you're seeking them. It's like, no, it's like really like maybe all this happened for a reason. And it was like meant to be, because like I think, had I like, not got to do that, like between dealing with my friend just dying and all the stuff with my ex, like I probably would have been in a super dark place and may have never recovered from it, you know? I don't know, but I didn't have to find out because I thought I found something that like helped my friend and it helped me. And I can't say anything more better about psychedelic medications, you know, to the general people of the United States that um, you know, are just, you know, like I said, just, you know, 60% of people in the United States are depressed or have some kind of like mental illness, and they're taking antidepressants, they're taking anti-anxiety medications, benzodiazepines. Doctors are prescribing. You know, they were over prescribing opiates for a long time, and that's what led to like this fentanyl crisis that's in the United States. Doctors are still over prescribing benzodiazepines like Xanax to people that have anxiety. But the anxiety comes from somewhere. It's not just something that you're born with, it's something that you're conditioned into. Um, it's you using your phone too much, it's you watching TV too much. It's just a lot of like noise from the outside world, you know, that we didn't have 30 years ago, you know. You know, the technology is crazy. It can be nice, you know, like technology is like very convenient for a lot of things, but like also it can be very, very discomforting at times, you know. So um this has been, you know, a good way to figure out how to stay grounded and just, you know, I wasn't very, you know, I was born, I guess, Catholic, you know. My dad was Catholic and very, very heavy Catholic, and um, raised in like a medium religious home, but I never really embraced religion for whatever reason. You know, I just never really felt a connection with it or like a need to like go to church or whatever. Like I didn't doubt that there was a higher being. I still don't doubt that there's a higher being out there, but um, it just didn't hold for whatever reason. And after going on this trip with my friend, I kind of like awakened um, something within me that's like a more spiritual connection to like every living being and the earth and just the universe, and you know, really humbled me. It really just like, you know, there's a lot of lessons that can be taught in taking those type of medicines that just like you'll never figure out, you know, being just um you know, in a, I don't want to say like sober state, but you know, just in a normal state, you know. These things do something to your ego that just will humble you in a heartbeat, you know. I joke around with like some of my friends and say like, hey, like, you know, if we could just give like you know, Putin some ayahuasca, you know, there would probably be no war with Russia and Ukraine right now, you know. Everybody, you know, if we give, you know, probably every head leader in the world, there would be no wars, you know. People would just want to help each other and just survive and just know that, hey, like, this is our earth and we have to take action to, like, for it to be habitable for the next, you know, thousands of years. But the way that we're running through it, like, it's going to be nothing, you know, for generations and generations to come. You know, it's just going to be a wasteland. So, and you know, that's like a sad reality, but like maybe it's not good to look at it that way, you know, because that only depresses some people. You got to be like very, I guess, optimistic about the future, you know, and hope that the newer generations are going to be like a little bit better on the climate or the things that we introduce into our environment and the stuff that we put in our bodies and just the overall like, you know, just the overall like look on things, you know. So try to stay positive and just like and motivated, and you know, and just, you know, some things are out of your control and you can't really change that, you know. So don't let it bother you because there's just no sense in it. Like you know, you can't control a lot of things that go on in your life. And I think, a lot of people try to be very controlling of that. And when they can't control that, it bothers them extremely. So there's a lot to learn, and there's always room for self-improvement. And, you know, um, I highly suggest to anyone that has like any type of emotional problems, um, mental illnesses, um, that pharmaceuticals really aren't doing anything to seek help elsewhere. Like there's plenty of places. Sure, it's not legal in all 50 states, and probably never will be. Like pharmaceutical companies definitely don't want this stuff legal because it just taps into the money that they're making month after month. From someone taking pill after pill every day. But boy, I've grown up with some people that were put on. I'm thinking one kid specifically. When we were in high school, his parents caught him smoking weed, and they thought he was crazy. They're like, "There's something wrong with you. Like you shouldn't want to like smoke marijuana." Well, no, that's just a kid growing up. They're curious. They want to like see what it's all about, and then sure they might like it because it's just it's a lot different back then, because it was illegal. Like I felt like kids did stuff because it was illegal, right? If you can't have it, you want it, and that's just the way things are. But anyway, so his parents put him on a bunch of like antidepressants, and he anti like not more than just antidepressants, like just heavy like psychotropic medications. And he literally went from like a very normal kid and very like respectable, popular kid to like you know, almost 20 years later, he's like almost a vegetable now. Like, you know, 15 years, like, about 5 years ago, he was like barely there as a person. He was saying super crazy stuff like that. He was like part of the CIA and just like, you could tell he's like almost schizophrenic, and he wasn't like that as a kid. That's not who he was. And I don't think he would have like been like that if it wasn't for like these like medication that the psychiatrists, psychologists were giving him, like, I don't know. It's actually like kind of disgusting, so
Yeah,
there's better ways, there's definitely better ways to be dealing with like mental health issues, even if it's not psychedelic medications, like, uh, even just like therapy, or like eating better, exercise, like all these things that like are just self-help. They're so much better than the alternatives that like, have
mhm.
big interest of like making a lot of money on us, so
Yeah, I totally agree when it comes to the medical industry. I mean, yeah, in that field, and then tying with the natural herbs and what the earth provides, that we're able to really have access to that. But then when it comes to the medical industry, they have completely like mostly cut that off from society as having it legal because of the way that they've been like programmed, or the way they've been educated, and the sources and accreditations of experiments that they've been doing and research. And like anything in life, there's like a balance, like when it comes to the medications. Of course, it's gone to the extreme where they're using it for greed, they're using it for profit. And then when it comes to the natural, uh like the psychedelics, a lot of individuals will lean away from that because they don't understand the benefits of it actually when it comes to the one's mental state and really balancing out the circuits. And I can see like how you are able to get your friend to go into different stages of resetting the body, the mind, body, and soul, to really awaken that part of him and that spark to connect back to the source and the universe as a whole, to really understand where a soul is and connected it. with their life and their destiny and awaken to that they're able to awaken to not just themselves, but the whole picture of how everybody is interrelated, interconnected into the whole scheme of this whole game of life per se, this whole matrix. And when it comes to like the understanding of the spirituality part and the drug industry, they the negative part of it, they've abused it enough that it shuts down a person and it shuts down their true essence of their soul. And that's really crying. And so when it comes to like therapeutic ways of healing the individual, it more so shuts down other aspects of them because it hasn't seemed to touch the root cause of the actual inner trauma, because there's like, I don't know if you're into like past past lives, reincarnation, because there's trauma from those lifetimes as well, that where hypnotherapy is more benefit to our individual to understand that part of themselves, because they're able to touch those different layers. And so when it comes to the drugs or the herbs of what the forest can provide, that teaches us, that teaches the individual, the soul opens up, in that aspect as well, to open up that we find a lot of answers through the natural means of these homeopathic ways versus the drug industry, where they provide more of like a band-aid and more like of a clutch. And then over time it becomes such, um, like a person is dependent on that drug, that they aren't able to walk away from it and really, start fresh and even have that faith and belief that they can live without it. And so I can see where that, the mindset of the whole medical industry of like, oh God, I gotta keep having that type of income coming in, and that's the only way, because they've been so ingrained in that type of mindset of that thinking of a society ways of, trying to, their their deception has been so like deeply ingrained in them, not realizing that their self deception is becoming a danger to themselves and society. And building on that, it's like it becomes a ripple effect. And then those other doctors who are open to the type of homeopathics and whatnot, it's harder for them to blow the whistle, because the majority of the world are more stuck into the more traditional type of medicine. And anyway, so I was also thinking, when you had leaned towards the psychedelics, what inspired you to go in that direction? Was
You
it
know,
like,
it wasn't, so honestly, like,
did you hear
I
something or
no, well, so there's been a lot of like, I guess, stuff that's been popping up in the last like 5 or so years, like Joe Rogan. His podcast is like probably the number one podcast in the world right now, and he's a big proponent of psychedelic medications. And I'm no like stranger to psychedelics. I probably ate mushrooms for the first time when I was like sometime in my teens. Um, but it wasn't really like, back then doing that, it wasn't the right way to be doing things. I just did it to do it, and didn't realize that, like, hey, environment is a big thing. Like, you shouldn't be really doing this around people you don't trust. And if you're in a bad environment, it's going to cause a negative reaction to you. And you're probably going to have a bad trip. And I had plenty of bad trips, so I don't think I was like, oh, I'm done with like psychedelics, like in my like early 20s. Like I had done mushrooms enough times and like, LSD a couple times that like I was like, yeah, I'm good. Like I don't need to do this anymore. And then something kind of like um it had to have been from like watching things like Joe Rogan, and then there's another show on what used to be, or I mean still Vice is still around, I guess. There's a guy called Hamilton Morris, and um he was like a chemist. I forget what university. He still works for a university. He actually is like a researcher. But he had this show on Vice where he traveled the world and he did like all these like psychedelic medicines. And it was more than psychedelic medicine. Like he had a couple episodes where he like, was going and like just looking at drugs and the chemical compound of it and like the origins of it, and like but the really good episodes, that I thought were like really intriguing is like he goes to, Peru, he like does ayahuasca, he goes like into the Sonoran Desert and like finds the toad and like finds people, like trying to find the person that like was the first person to find this, because like I said, the toad thing is like not until the last 50 years. Like this isn't like ayahuasca where it's 1,000-year-old medication that like came from the Amazonian rainforest from some tribe. This is from some guy in the 1970s or 80s that was playing around in the desert and discovered this toad that has like the same thing. Like a lot of plants have dimethyltryptamine in it too, but like not very many animals. So it's like a very rare case that there is this animal that secretes it, and the toads aren't harmed really. um, it's just not good, essentially, because people have been going out into the desert and snatching the toads, and they've been taking them to like take them to a farm, but they don't really do well in those like farm conditions. Like they need to like live in their natural habitat to survive and produce the alkaloids they need to produce this medication. But like, yeah, it's like literally from like all this like media that's popping up now, that's kind of just like releasing the more facts on these medicines that weren't there like 10 or 20 years ago. 10 or 20 years ago, you would have like told most people about this stuff and they would have thought you're crazy, that you're just a drug addict and you're like trying to go out and get high. And now today it's like, no, this is like therapy. Like this is like something that could potentially change your life. Like, you could go from being like super suicidal and depressed to like actually smiling. I have another friend that has had, he's still around right now. He was given terminal cancer at the age of 31 years old. He's my age. He's 38 years old. He's been around for 7 years now. They gave him 18 months to live. He had the fastest metastasizing cancer that you could potentially get. It was it was a stage 4 type of melanoma cancer, and he was, like I said, he was given 18 months max to live, and so he's in the hospital just wasting away essentially, and he got kind of lucky in some sense, because there was a medication. Some doctors that came to him and said, hey, like we want to take biopsies of the cancer. We're going to go and study this. We're going to put it in some mice. We're going to put it in some mice. We're going to grow the cancer out in the mice. There's this new drug that's about to get FDA approved. We're doing trials on the mice. It's shown good results. Like it's killing the cancer inside the mice, which is, amazing. Like you're going to take that to a human as soon as it gets cleared by the FDA. So after that, it got passed by the FDA. He was one of the very first people to get this drug, but it didn't come at some risk and damages. He got what was now like 3 times the recommended dosage of the medicine, and it turned him completely albino. So he has no more color. He kind of looks like Mr. Clean, So he went from a guy that had color in his skin, to completely albino. The only color he has left is in his retinas of his eyes. But it did give him time, it it put his cancer into remission. It was gone for like a pretty long time, but now it's like kind of popping back up. And another thing too is like his immune system kind of went into overdrive after he had cancer. And so it was like attacking stuff that wasn't really there anymore. And by that, meaning his immune system was damaging his organs, his eyes, his liver. You know, his eyes were really bad. He's pretty much going blind in like one eye right now. The other eye is not so bad. And, he's scared to die. He is, as most people are. When they get terminal, they're there and they're like, God, I wish I had more time on this earth. I'm not going to get to see my daughter graduate, or, I'm not going to see, my son have my grandchild, that type of thing. And, I think like some of these medicines, I was able to um, give my friend a serum. My friend that has cancer, I was able to give him 5-MeO DMT because that's accessible now in Colorado. The other stuff, it's like I'm sure you can probably get it. It's a lot harder to get here, and it's not like being legal right now. You can't really get it, right? It's not like I can go to a dispensary and just buy the medication. It's like no, you got to like know someone that like already had it, and it's like or like where you just I don't know. There's facilities that are coming out right now that are going to be allowed to prescribe this medication and facilitate you, right? Like um all these medicines, you're never supposed to be doing any of this stuff alone, like it's not good. Like you have to have someone almost babysitting you and watching you and kind of like being your guide, your spiritual guide or whatever it may be, like kind of showing you the way. And so, I facilitate him. And one of the craziest things happened the first time that I gave it to him. He's he's dying, right? So he's like very depressed, and just down on himself, and he has like a really bad anxiety. He was addicted to opiates for years and years and years because when he had cancer, they were giving him, tons of Oxycontin and you know a lot of other things as well that he was super addicted to. And it's because he was dying. When you're terminal, they'll give you whatever you want because it's like supposed to like ease the pain and make your life more bearable towards your end days. Well, it's like, well, he wasn't really going to die. Like, well, I mean, he may have, if he had that medication, but after he was like cleared of it, it's like, well, now it's time to come off that medication. You don't need it anymore. Well, guess what? He's dependent on it because it's like, it's this drug that the pharmaceutical industry sold to the United States that like, hey, like this thing isn't very addictive. Yeah, it is, like he's had the worst time trying to like kick these medicines and just get off of everything that it's just been a nightmare, like and he's another person that I'm like I really really wish you could come do this program that we did, and but now that it's going to be accessible in Colorado, he probably will end up doing. But one of the things that I saw after he was just able to do the 5-MeO DMT is he was laughing and he was crying like after it. He was like actually happy again. Like I hadn't seen him smile in a very long time, which is like very depressing to someone, like you don't see someone smile for like years on end. They just look a like a zombie, like it's almost like their souls like left their body, like that's pretty that's pretty sad thing to like watch and just bear witness to, and that's happening like more and more. It's just like it's just more and more common thing, and this helped a lot. And then on top of that, the craziest thing happened that I was like mean to say is that he was going blind. His eye, he has like it's like the opposite of glaucoma. So I guess glaucoma is your eyes inflamed and the pressure in your eye is like building up a lot. And his eye is almost deflating. So like think of it like a basketball. and like your eyeball is a basketball. And I don't know exactly what the measurement of the um like the, it'd be like PSI for like pounds per square inch, but so the measurement of filling like the eyeball, his was like, so the average is like a 25. His is like a 3. His eye is like deflating essentially, and they're having to give him like steroids and stuff to like just keep it up and like, going. And after he took the medicine, um we were hanging out that day. I took him to dinner and we went and saw a movie, and about halfway through the movie he like turned over to me and he's like, I can see. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I haven't had my eyeglasses since we left, like, 3.5 hours ago. And normally he has to wear his glasses for everything. Like, otherwise he just can't see. He's like blind as a bat. But he was afraid to say something, even to his like eye doctor at the time. Like, even his eye doctor, when he went and got checked up on the second time, he went from like a 3 to an 11. So it's better. It's not perfect, right? It didn't like fix his eye. Like, it's not any like miracle thing, but like his eye got better. And it was helping him. It had a point of like diminishing, return, where it was just like it doesn't stay good forever. But if he was doing it every 2 to 3 weeks, it would like kind of make his vision a little bit better. And you know, like I said, he finally said something to his doctor after like things got legal up in Colorado. And I think what happens, when you hallucinate is your pupils dilate. When people say they're like hallucinating, or like, they're seeing stuff that really isn't there. Like, when you hallucinate, your eyeball just like it, or your pupil just like it dilates. So it goes from being like very small to like opening up like crazy. So you're like way more light sensitive. Um, Not that your eyes are usually open, because most of the time like they're shut while you're going through this process. But something that happens, like, I guess when the eye is being dilated, that it fixed some sort of his image, and so that was just a plus. But the biggest plus is just being able to see him smile again, and just being able to see him cry again, because he's a grown man. He doesn't want to talk about his problems. He doesn't want to like share all the things that are going on wrong in his life. His ex-wife leaving him, and taking his daughter, and him basically dying. Like, he doesn't want to talk about any of that. But like, in that like, you know 45 minutes, it's like you get to see him cry, you get to see him laugh, you get to see him smile. It's just like all emotions at once, that it kind of like lets go, just it's just basically letting go. I don't know how else to put it, but it's just a very powerful thing, so I think it's, like I said, Joe Rogan, a few other people like have just kind of been bringing this more mainstream. Like, this was an industry that people were going outside the United States and paying $10,000 for like a week or two of these like medicines, and now this is something that like you're gonna be able to like go and do for a couple $100, like, and not have to fly like out of the United States, which is cool to like get out, and go and travel and go do something different. But like, really, like, a lot of the stuff's like needed back home, like a lot of people don't have money, they can't afford, like, average person's in debt in the United States, like they don't have 10 grand to like just get up and go somewhere and like fly and, take a trip to go do whatever they want and try and solve their problems. No, they're worried about eating and just, whatever. So I just like want it to be more affordable, and honestly, any like true shaman or healer would never charge for the medicine itself, like I get it. Like, some of these people, like, they have like an overhead, right? Like, they don't get the stuff for free, so they have to like charge a little bit to like get the medicine and like for a little bit for their time, and effort, so they can like put their energy into doing what they're doing and helping people. But like some of these companies, like some of the companies like across, like down in, Peru and, um, even like I guess like Costa Rica, like is like a big one. There's like a lot of like they're almost like very touristy and they're just geared towards like making money. Like they're charging $3,000 a night, and having people stay like 7 nights, for this retreat, and it's more than just doing ayahuasca. But like at the end of the day, like those companies are there to make money again, and it's just like okay, like we're trying to step away from what the pharmaceutical companies were doing. Like I get you're not prescribing pharmaceuticals, like you're prescribing something that's like more holistic, but like you got to get away from that money mind frame, and I guess that's just the way the world works. It's capitalism, it is what it is. But true healer would just like not charge, would not charge for healing someone, so
Going back to Joe Rogan, I really love his podcast. He has mentioned about multiple times about different types of drugs that are benefit to the person, especially if they're going through some kind of health issues, and also it's helped balance out the mental state. And he touches once in a blue moon. The ones I've seen, the podcast is touches about a little bit of spirituality or like the soul awakening. And but going back into the spirituality aspect of it when it comes to the drugs and awakening that soul, I I was thinking about Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you've heard of him.
no.
And he's really into like the breathing techniques and the meditation process of he's helped individuals with stage 2, 3, and 4 cancers that became like cancer free, and doctors that would just tell the clients that they are unable to really reverse the cancer, or uh, it's that they can't do anything, so they have to live with it. And so Joe Dispenza really walks the individuals, and he has different programs of we're really assisting the individual on different types of meditation states of a person that they'll allow themselves to walk through, and it takes like days, and a person would like get committed into walking those programs that he set up, that with other scientists and doctors that they've discovered. But there's this book that he wrote that's called Becoming Supernatural, How Common People Are Doing the Uncommon. And so he's more leaning towards like the beginning part of the book is like more of a testimonials of individuals, of people that they've experimented on and did studies, and they would show like MRIs and brain waves of how it goes through different processes and different stages of like theta, beta, I don't know which one, and alpha and whatnot. And he had mentioned, I believe the alpha state is mainly the state where a person goes into this meditative state. It's the same as taking psychedelics, that it goes into that state, that same realm, that a person starts healing, their body starts going through this healing process, and it becomes like the body goes through this stage of detoxifying itself, and the cells and subcells, subatoms start forming new ones for the body to heal. And so that's where he's able to see the individuals where they are able to get rid of their tumors or their cancers, or individuals where like him himself, he was in a bike accident and he had broken all his vertebrae. And so his doctors had told him that he was unable to really walk again, ever again, that he would be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And I believe that was in his mid 30s when that had happened. I can't remember exactly the details when that happened, but at one point when he was in the hospital, like I think 3 months, he went into this meditative state and started tuning in into what his body needed, and he started walking himself through some kind of meditations of just mentally processing, walking himself through and having all his vertebrae healed, and his whole back was healed through the whole that process of just meditation. And so he has this whole course of and seminars also, individuals who wanted to take it, take the courses for them to transition into that type of mindsets, mainly like reprogramming one's mental state. It's all like between, the ears of what we think. We are what we think. And similar to his studies, his work is Jerry Sargent. And I was thinking about him as well when you were talking about your friend that was in in the hospital, and the all the different stages he's had to go through and where he's at now. And so yeah, and the Montana mines, like just how the earth overall provides all these sources for the body to heal. And so Joe Dispenza's his motto is more like, if the body is able to, destroy itself, put types of diseases in itself, the body can heal itself as well. So that's his main message when it comes to putting out his work out there for individuals to turn their life around to being cancer free. And the same thing with Jerry Sargent, is the same thing. And so with like the Montana mines, it's like there's different mines out there. I don't know if you're familiar with like radon and different types of radon, that there's a certain level where the body can actually heal, like how there's different radon baths in Europe, and not there aren't many in the US, but there are like clinics that have radon therapy that individuals go into. And there's also the EE system that's made by this one doctor. I can't remember her name off of my head, but it's the same type of thing. Like when a person goes into this this EE system, it's actually just an environment that you walk into, and there's these technologies that are set at different depths and centimeters away from each other. And sometimes they're formed into a triangle, sometimes they're formed into a square or a rectangle. But depending on the distance was what mattered, because of when it comes to math. It seems like math seems to be really greatly involved when it comes to the healing of the body. And so like there's a different, frequencies that a person heals when they listen to different types of music, different types of music that heals a person. And then if it's negative music, it like, deteriorates the mental thinking and whatnot. Same thing like with media, with all that frequency, it becomes overwhelming. And our radio station, we're also sensitive beings that were in this vehicle, and it's depending on how awake a person is, their mind, body, and soul, the circuitry that's open, they're able to reach those different levels of dimensions and see, as a person wakes up to that circuitry, and the circuitry, or just that belief alone, the circuitries open up a bit more. So, like, where in your life do you believe? It started. I guess you had mentioned with the psychedelics that opened up that spirituality world in your life. Is where you were trying to assist your friends to wake up to that realm as well.
Yeah, that was probably like the biggest like eye opening. You know, the guy, I'm gonna give him a shout out, Luis at Rites of Passage. He was the healer, that we went and saw, and he he just the whole thing, I just can't even imagine how someone put together a protocol like the thing that he had, but it wasn't more about just like doing the medicines. It was like a eye-opening journey that's just like mind opening and just ever evolving. And but yeah, I wasn't like I said, I wasn't really religious. I wasn't religious beforehand, but I wasn't really super spiritual. And I came out of there. Yeah, and I came out of there and I just changed, I felt like that everything is like really kind of just tied together, like in the grand scheme of things, like we're just a speck of dust in the universe, right? We're just flying on a rock, in the middle of the galaxy right now, and um, life is kind of, you know, it's it's just a very very like crazy thing to think about in the grand scheme of things, and that whole journey just kind of wrapped my mind around the like spirituality type of things, like it made me pretty spiritual. And my friend as well, my friend took it to like another level. And like I said, I think I said I kind of like was talking about this, but like he wasn't like never really done like any hallucinogens, growing up, so like I got in there and I'm like, oh, I kind of know what I'm getting myself into, but yeah, a little bit more than what I had kind of anticipated, but not bad. He he had a little bit rougher of a time going through everything, but he came out and oh man, it changed him. Like he is a very very spiritual person now. He's like all about um he's been to like different places. Like he's in Iceland right now. He's staying with this guy that's like kind of considers himself like an Icelandic shaman type guy, Nordic ancestry, and just um, and they've gone and visited different cultures, and like they were just down in Seattle not too long ago with the indigenous tribe there, and we're there for like some ceremonial blessing of like the native land that they had. And he's just he's kind of like, we're all tied together, like we're all came from the same place. Like there's no real reason for like religions really to be dividing us. We're all the same essence, and we all should be like working together and just healing each other, not hurting each other. And unfortunately that's just not the way it is, but it's kind of the way it should be, or you think it should be. Maybe not, I don't know. But there's good in this world, and um it's just for people to be discovered, and people need to be a little bit more open-minded and just accepting of stuff that happens. We can't really control things that are thrown at us, but we can control how we act, and we can control how we react. So just huge. And that was the beginning of my spiritual journey, and it's just the beginning. It really is. um, I would love to dive a lot deeper, but between just like work and everything, um, I have my I have my slim slim quality, or my slim amount of time that I have to really concentrate on it. But I really do just try to like take good care of myself now, and just treat myself right, and surround myself with good people, successful people, people that mean well. I don't want to be surrounded by, someone that's super negative and just bashing on everything. And I just, yeah, I want to be in that positive state. I want to have, you know, I want to manifest good things. I want to bring good things into other people's lives. Like I don't want to be a part of the negative stuff, and sometimes it's just hard to do. We got We got a presidential election year this year, like it's a rough time for a lot of people. 2020 was a very rough year for a lot of people, not only COVID was going on, but like, you got both states of the United States, like the political party, very polar opposite. We're a pretty divided country. It's this way or that way. And it really shouldn't be like that. It should just be like, hey, like we're all Americans, like we should want the best for our people and like who we are, and it shouldn't be this or that. It shouldn't having to be choosing the lesser of two evils. It should just be like, hey, like we need to come together as one. Like we're all Americans, right? Like we want the best for our people, our economy, our country, you know, for really for everybody, even if they're not a part of our country, we should want the best for everybody. And we like to say hopefully likewise, but that's just not going to be the reality of things. So it's a tough time. And so I think being like, just, having a good sense of spirituality, and open-mindedness is just really key to being healthy, and being aware, of all the things that are out there that are really trying to pose a risk to your health and to your health as well. So
Like I said earlier, I've never done psychedelics. I've never, I've never
right.
gone into
Some
drugs,
people don't
but
need 'em.
yeah, and so my reason was more like going to the different meditation states. And I've been like on and off been doing that since I can remember since I was about 11. But I would just get into nature and I would just zone into that space and different levels I would reach into understanding of what was around me. And so those who actually did do psychedelics or, different types of mushrooms, I understood where they were coming from. They were reaching that different type of level of dimensions and realities. And I was like, yeah, you can do that as well when you're in this meditative state. And it
Yeah,
doesn't have to be just in
a
that moment when you're
a hundred
meditating.
percent, 100%.
Yeah, you just get into this zone and
Yeah,
you
you
just
think of
like,
the Buddhist monks that like, did those like the crazy meditations, that they would meditate for hours on end and they would like reach this level of consciousness that wasn't really like accessible to the average human, and they did it through breath work and just meditation. And it's just a different level of consciousness that most people haven't ever experienced. And I think psychedelics are probably the easier way to like just take something and like go to that level of extreme right away. But like you're right, like you can achieve that without having to do that type of stuff. Like it's meditation, breath work, and other things can lead you to exactly what you're saying, without having to even do that stuff. So
yeah, exactly. Like when it comes to the drugs aspect of it, it is a shortcut to get there. And then when it comes to the mental state of really strengthening those muscles and really understanding how we can actually get and tapped into that source and really have the understanding that we are much more than just mortals, that we're in this type of super mortal, this vehicle that we've like closed all our circuits to understanding who we really are. Anyways, again, thank you for being able to connect, and this meeting was awesome, and hearing your story. And I was just also wondering what your plan is for the future when it comes to going forward and keeping yourself activated in the source, in the flow, and your family and friends and your connections. And do you have any message for others?
like, it's like you said, opening your consciousness to a different level is up to your discretion, what you want to do. Psychedelics aren't for everyone, definitely some mental illnesses, like multiple personality disorder, schizophrenia, like can't use those type of medicines, unfortunately it's just like the way it is, it kind of creates more problems, but a lot of these like medicines are helpful to pretty much anybody out there that is seeking help. And you know um I I've always wondered, hey, after I got done with that little excursion, I'm like, hey, this is possibly another way that I could be helping people. So I don't know, time will only tell. I could very well be in the psychedelic, field in the next few years, in Colorado. And I like to point people towards the direction that they need. Um, but overall, I just want to stay, grounded. I just want to work on like me as a person. It goes far beyond just medicines. It just starts with yourself, and I want to stay in tune with my body and um, like myself, just surround myself with good people, my family, my friends, make sure that they're doing good, because if you're doing good, your friends are doing good, then pretty much anyone in between is going to be doing well as well, right? So I would love to just keep working on myself, and I can't tell you where I'm going to be in a few years, but I really would like to just I am a big proponent of this stuff, and I just want people to like open their eyes and like get the actual help that they need, and hopefully I can point people in the right direction and, maybe facilitate, who knows. I can't really I can't really say, it is what it is, but time will only tell, but I'm excited for the future. I'm happy to see what comes of it, and I think nothing but good things will happen, so no matter what kind of state of um the world affairs that we're in, so um yeah, I think it'll be good.
Hopefully we can just like see what your progress is in a few years from now
Oh
and do
yeah.
a podcast or whatnot. And
Yeah, definitely like check
like,
in, in some time.
yeah.
We'll see where things have gone. I'm sure I'll be able to hopefully like tell you some more like crazy things without the like chaotic envelopment into it. Like those are like the stories that I told are like they're like deeply sad stories, but I tell them to kind of like work through the trauma, because if you're like, it took me a while to even just like wrap my mind around like what had happened and like a couple of those things, I'm like, is this like real life? Did this like really happen,
Mm-hmm.
And like, was this the way I'm like supposed to be living my life, but like I said, like everything happens for a reason, and I'm happy, like, and that's all like that needs to be said, it doesn't matter what happened in the past. And I think a lot of people focus too much on what's behind you. You need to focus on what's ahead of you. That's just the reality of it. Like, you can't control what happened in the past, but you can control what happens in the future, so, with you doing the right thing and just like kind of manifesting your reality, I think that's the biggest thing, is that you are your own reality, right? Like, you are what you make of your life. If you're some person that's like has nothing but bad things to say and just draws in negativity, like negativity is going to find you day after day after day, and you're just going to be living in a world where like it's just sad, and it's just that's the reality of it. But like, if you are a positive person and you think good things will happen to you, good things will happen to you, and that's kind of like my philosophy on things, and like that's kind of just the way that I've seen the way that the world works. And certainly, like I said, there are things that come in out of nowhere that you can't control, but you can control on how you deal with them, right? And you can control how they affect you. So like, being, you are the master of your own fate. You are the master of your destiny. And so if you want something bad enough, you can get it. It's just about how much work you're willing to put into that and do the type of things that you need to do to achieve that. Um, Nothing is out of grasp, it's just the kind of work that you're willing to put in to see the results, so that's just a huge part, is just putting in the effort. I can't reiterate that like enough, so to all the people out there that think that all hope is lost, it's not. You have time to fix things before it's too late. you know you don't want to live life with regret. Like, that's one of the biggest things. You don't want to be getting too old and be like, I wish I would have done this and this different, right? Like, you want to live life with no regrets. Like, just, like, I had a good life, like, i'm not I'm not sad about any of the decisions that I made, so. And I mean, obviously that's not easy either, like some of the choices that people make, especially when you're young, when you're young, you're a little dumb, right? Like most people are, right? You make some questionable choices in life, but it's not too late. It's never too late to kind of just figure out um, what direction you should be going in, to be living a good life and to be happy, and materialistic things and all that stuff, it's just noise in the world, that a lot of people don't really need, but they want, so once you can concept a grasp of, like, hey, like, it's, I think that most people like look at money as like, hey, like, I need this, I want this, like, it's power, it's whatever, I just, I see money as freedom. It gives you the ability to live any type of lifestyle that you want, whether that's, if you want like a super materialistic life, like, that's on you, most of those people are happy though. And it just, it's more of a freedom type of thing, at least to me, and you know, I do want to make good money, like, that is me, but I want to help people more than anything, so I hope, when you check back in with me in a few years, like, I was able to say, like, yeah, I'm helping people, like, I'm happy. I'm in the direction that I said I wanted to go in, a few years earlier, so I hope that's the reality of things. I hope I'm putting that into reality.
Awesome. Thank you so much for closing it and that putting that effort and that we are our master of our reality. And so it really puts it down to us and being vulnerable to not just ourselves to but to others and to really make a difference in the world and have that impact and helping others shift and change their life the best way that we can. First starts with ourselves.
So, if anyone wants to contact me, they can contact me on Instagram. It's at Lucky Sapo 86. Um, Not big on social media. I do use Instagram though, and I will post some stuff about um, my spiritual journey on there. So if you guys want to follow along or just take a look, comment. If you guys have any questions about anything, any type of stuff that I talked about today, feel free to reach out to me there, and I'd be glad to answer you guys' questions. And I hope you guys can check back in on me in a few years and see all the great things that I've done.
Well, thank you again. And yeah, keep in touch and hope you have a great evening and a great
Well,
weekend. Yeah, thank
bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye.
I'm angry, yelling, I'm crying, driving in my truck, just driving. And I'm talking to my uncle, and he's listening. He's a guy, and the best thing for a guy, if a guy, ladies, if you're listening, if a guy's talking, just all you have to do is just listen. Like a guy just wants to vent. And my uncle did that, and he was like, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" I'm like, "Were you not listening to anything I said?" He was like, "I was like, I'm driving." And he's like, "All right." He's like, "You sounds like you need to go to church." And my uncle told me that, and I was like, "Church?" It was like a Tuesday. I was like, "It's Tuesday around lunchtime or something." He was like, "Okay." Churches, he's like, "Churches they don't close." I was like, "Oh." He's like, "Go." He's like, "Wherever you're at, you go to the nearest church right now." He's like, "You are fighting something." And I was like, he's full of BS. Like, this is like, he's just blowing smoke.